Hello, hello. Oh, baby! Thank you! And I beat Frank.
Oh my god!
You beat Frank.
He took a point of mine. Oh my god!
Start.
Hit
Or a
that
second or
shit,
two.
dude.
Good? You good? You ready? Oh, good for you. Okay. You'll get the back and forth here real quick on our dynamic. And all right. So 3, 2.
Hello, welcome to the Company Improvement Podcast. I am Frank along with
Tony.
and today we have, I think, our biggest guest since Kim Coulter.
Definitely our most interesting since Kim Coulter.
Yeah, we have Mr. Weiss.
Mr. David Weiss from the Flat Earth podcast.
Correct.
And would you like to introduce yourself real quick and let people know right off the top where they can find you?
You can find me at theflatearthpodcast.com. There's links to all my stuff there. And I am the creator of the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, which will get you by Google censorship and show you what the Flat Earth is. We'll get into that.
Yes, absolutely. And remember, guys, you can find us at completelyinappropriatepodcast@gmail.com with any comments, questions, concerns, any questions you have for this episode or any other ones that we've done. Find us at CI Podcast on Instagram, Completely Inap with 1P on Twitter, and BitChute, YouTube, wherever you find podcasts, you found us already because you're already listening to us. So don't forget to leave us a 5-star review and, don't bother with the other stars. They don't work. They don't count. Don't worry about it. Trust us. We love you. We know you love us. Just let us feel your love. And so David, Mr. Weiss, what would you prefer, David or Mr. Weiss?
David's fine.
I thought so. You seem like a casual enough guy. So I guess, Frank, do you want to kick off the intro questions here?
I heard, I'm not going to say I saw it on another podcast because...
But you did. Everything we know about this guy is from the podcast we listen to.
So I heard that you went to school here in Texas.
That is untrue. Strike one.
Strike one, Frank.
What?
See, I gave him one chance. I did. I thought he did at least some basic research. So where did you think he went to school? And then we'll ask him where he actually went.
I heard you went to college at UT North Texas.
Huh. So what's
I've
the
been
truth?
to
Mr. Weiss?
Texas once or twice, but both for Flat Earth conferences.
Oh, okay. That makes much more sense.
Yeah.
So what is your educational background, if you don't mind us asking?
I have a regular business degree. I majored in marketing and psychology, and I was in corporate America. I was working for a corporation. I helped them grow into I was working for a solar company, and I helped them open up a commercial division. Then that company was sold, and I created my own company, started my own solar commercial development company with a couple partners. And
awesome.
And then I migrated into this. I left that high and dry, and here I am.
Started living your dream.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's what it's all about. Living the dream. We're going to get into that. Good
Yes,
comment.
Absolutely. Now, as far as your religious background, I know you tend to, in your conversations, you've touched on it in other podcasts, your religious leanings, but could you maybe clarify that for us real quick?
Yeah, I have none. I have no religious leanings. Before I discovered that we don't live on a heliocentric ball flying through infinite space, I was a nihilistic atheist would be the best way you could describe me. I believe that we are just random accidents living here on this spinning ball where an asteroid could take us out at any moment. Then I discovered the true makeup of those world, or better said, the globe lie. We can get into that. And I realized there is a creator. Now, where you take that is your own personal journey.
Sure.
Something created this place, and it wasn't a random accident.
Interesting. Yeah, whether it be universal consciousness of whatever was before.
Whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Gaia, God, just empathy. What it could be called a billion different things.
All of those
we're all
things could
describing
be a
the same
part
thing.
of the truth. All of those religions, all of those concepts could all be part of the truth of this world. But the thing about this world is it is intelligently designed.
Absolutely. So that's where you stand. There is an intelligent design of some form.
Correct. And I don't tell people what to make of that because I can't prove it, and people can just take that creator, Christians, there's a lot of Christians in every group, no matter what. There's always Christians everywhere. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Sure.
So people think this flat earth, it's a Christian thing. Well, there's a lot of Christians here because it lines up with the Christian faith.
Right. They speak of the firmament in the Bible and in
so many things, right? And the Quran and everything. I mean, all societies before our current realm, before our current society, whatever, all of history, everybody knew the earth was flat. It's only recently that the heliocentric religion has started. And that's a religion because people that believe they live on a ball, it's pure faith. They have zero evidence. They think they have evidence because they've been brainwashed into believing that there's evidence, like boats over the horizon, sunsets, seasons, day and night, all of these things. They've been brainwashed into thinking that there's only one answer, and that's that we live on a ball. But when you actually look at it, those things actually prove that we're not on a ball, but we've been brainwashed so strong that most people can't see it.
Sure. And that's how I feel about religion and basically any of the universal truths, quote unquote, that are said to be there. Everything is questionable. If you're not questioning things that people tell you are facts, you're not thinking hard enough.
We are on the same page there, my friend.
Yeah, sure. So I will be coming at this conversation from the baller,
baller.
Position.
You could be a baller. I could be a flat earther. I'll own it.
Sure. For the and you may be winning me over at some point, but I'm not going to let you know. I'm going to let you know that right now because I want this conversation to be respectful, honest with each other, with just the questions that most people are going to have. Exactly what I imagine you want to help you get your truth out to the masses, right?
100%. The harder the questions, the better, because to this very day, I haven't found a question that not that I can answer every question, but there's three baskets things fall into. They work on a flat earth. They work on a flat earth and a ball earth. And there's many things that work on both. And then works on a ball earth only. And the ball earth only basket is empty. Okay.
Interesting.
It's empty. So as we go through, we may agree to disagree on things. We may we can't prove either. So we could throw that into the no basket or the middle basket. Let's see how many things land in that last basket.
Sure. Much like one of the gentlemen on the Dangerous World podcast that I was listening to, I'm somewhere in the middle, 50-50, where I'm so focused on the things that work on both ends of the spectrum. It's really hard for me to land on either side. So maybe you can help me with that.
The fact that you are in the middle, that you're questioning the ball, puts you in the top 99% of the people that are actually using their minds. So that's awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
You go around most people and you're like, is the earth flat or round? They'll be like, you're an idiot. Of course it's round, and I'm not even going to listen to anything you say.
They're not even willing to entertain.
The brainwashing is.
Exactly. Yeah. To put it succinctly, I grew up Catholic, and growing up Catholic, I learned very quickly to question that for my own personal reasons. And so then I found myself calling myself an atheist for the longest time. And now I've realized the truth within myself that I'm not an atheist. I am what I would consider a searcher. I don't believe nor do I deny. I'm still trying to figure it out for me. So that's where we're at.
Can I no, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
I was done.
So there's a big thing where people that are listening to this right now that are like, this is crazy. The reason you think it's crazy is the same reason I thought it was crazy. It's you have a misconception of what flat earth is, and you don't even understand the heliocentric model that you think you live on. That's a fact. Okay. And so as we go through, I'm going to clear up what the flat earth is, what it isn't, and I'm going to show you what the heliocentric model is. Have you guys seen my app yet?
Yes.
Go ahead.
One of the podcasts that I saw, it was your face was there and it was the same background. So I'm like, okay, for that podcast, I got the right guy. Not for the previous one. But anyways, so you were talking about your app, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. I remember you saying, to correct me if I'm wrong, because apparently I can be wrong, but
You very
you were
well, very
saying,
much can and have and probably will continue to be wrong.
okay,
Just so you know.
so if I remember correctly, because I forgot my notes, I left them at home. You were saying that
I do that with my shopping list when I go shopping. I leave it at home.
Oh yeah, he's quite useless in this podcast. Don't worry, you'll get used to it about halfway through.
Sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
fine.
So then, there's a few questions I have about your app, but yeah, I just remembered you have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, and then you have the equator, and that the sun actually moves up and down from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. And where's it going with this? Yeah,
Why don't I show it? Can I show
Okay,
it?
yeah.
And then you guys can stop me and question. Give me like 2 or 3 minutes to show it and explain what the model is. Can you enable screen sharing?
Sure. One moment. All right, there we are. And just so you guys know who are listening to this through the audio form, this is a heavily YouTube-centric style podcast. David Weiss is very fond of throwing up these images and animations for us to get a very precise idea of what it is he's actually speaking on. Oh, we've lost audio for David for a moment here. Yeah, we've lost audio.
I told you I like talking to myself on mute. I'm the best. I love it.
There you are.
Every show I do it. So now we're
Keeping it
done. We don't have to
interesting.
worry about it later. It's good. We're good to go.
Oh yeah, get out of the way at the top of the hour.
You have the app so it's shown fully, or is it cut off in the image?
It's full. It's full.
Right.
We've got everything there.
So you have to think of the flat Earth as a puddle. Think of what a puddle is. A puddle is where water accumulates in the low spot of the land. The edge of the puddle is what? You want to say something, Tony?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So as far as so are you when we're talking about the flat, this is one of the very first questions I want to ask. When we're talking about a flat Earth, are we talking flat or are we talking more concave or convex due to the just geography?
Well, there is geography. There's mountains and trenches, and there's ups and downs.
Yeah, it's up and down throughout the world, but
70% of the Earth is water. Large bodies of water at rest lay flat, perfectly flat. When there's no wind and no currents, the water is provably flat for miles and miles and miles, where it should be curving over a horizon, but it doesn't. We can get into that in a little bit. And while I'm talking, if you have a question, just hold your hand up and I'll stop talking so I see, because I'm going to steamroll just for like 2 or 3 minutes here.
Sure. No, I'm good at cutting people off. Don't worry.
So think of that. I say a puddle, we know what a puddle is. A pond is a bigger puddle. A lake is a bigger pond, right? So you have a lake, and the edge of the lake isn't like the edge of a quarter or of a pizza where you could jump off and fall into infinite space. It's the edge of a lake, and then there's land, right? And the land is higher than the lake. Well, think of the world pond, all of the oceans, as a giant pond, a giant lake. And the edge of that lake is the highest land on Earth. And that's holding the lake in. And that land is called Antarctica. Antarctica is the edge of the world pond. So when you're looking at the app, we're looking straight down at the world lake from too high, actually higher than we could probably ever get. So
quick.
Go ahead.
As far as beyond Antarctica, this is where you get into the story about the Iron Republic, the people that came from the Iron Republic. And
so we'll get there. We're going to focus right on the Earth pond right now, not what's beyond it. And when I'm done with this, you can ask me any questions you want, and we'll address all of them. So the sun and the moon go around in a circle. So that outer yellow line is the Tropic of Capricorn. The inner yellow line is the Tropic of Cancer. And as the sun migrates in between, I'm going to move the sun forward to May. We're to June, and in June it's over the Tropic of Cancer. So that's the inner northern land's summer, because the sun is over us. So imagine this. Imagine right now you're outside and there's an airplane at 10,000 feet flying straight over your head. And then there's another airplane paralleling that airplane, same height. It's 30 miles to your south. Okay. You with me?
Yes.
So the one flying over your head, you can say that's your summer sun. It's flying over your head and it's shining directly down on you. The one that's out south, the other plane, is lower in the sky. just like the sun is for us now. It's lower in the sky because it's out south over the Tropic of Capricorn. And that's why we have our winter. And that's why Australia is having their summer. If we go back out to now, November, December, boom. So the sun is out over the southern lands. It's their summer, why it's our winter. Because as that airplane is lower in the sky, the one off to your side, the sun is off to the side. That's why it's our winter. So that's how.
In this argument, how large are we talking the sun and moon to be? Because it looks minuscule in comparison to the Earth in this image.
It is minuscule. It's very small. It's small and close, and it's within the Earth system. And to guess its size, I would have to know its distance. I'd have to know that it's a physical object. There's lots of things I don't know because it's above our reach or beyond our reach as far as the edge of Antarctica. We'll get into that in a moment.
Sure, just taking note, setting up questions for later.
Yeah, no problem. So if I speed it up, you can see we got a full moon now because the moon is opposed to the sun. The sun is going slightly faster than the moon. In fact, it'll lap the moon every 28 times around. Okay, so the sun keeps track of the hours and the days. The moon and its phases keep track of the weeks and the months. Okay, so when the sun catches up to the moon, it'll be a new moon, and there will be. Go ahead.
Real quick, why are we seeing the moon start to wane and wax here?
Because look, it has to do with its relative position to the sun. So right now there's a new moon. There's no moon to see at all, and after a couple times, what's that?
So is the sun directly behind the moon? Is that why we're getting the shadow of the moon? Why it seems to disappear?
That's a great question, and we can talk about that more. But just think of it as the position of the moon. The sun is not reflecting light off the moon. I believe that the sun is powering up the moon. Again, we'll get into that once I get out of the app. All right.
Sure.
So the sun keeps track of the hours and days. The moon keeps track of the weeks and the months, and the stars go slightly faster than the sun, and they lap the sun once a year. So what that means is you have your 12 zodiacs, and the one that's trailing the sun will catch up, and the sun will be in that zodiac for a month, and then the following month it'll be in the next zodiac, and the zodiac will lap it once a year. So the stars keep track of the seasons and the years, and these are repeatable, testable, provable things. Okay, so when you go out tonight, if you go out tonight and look at where the stars are, 10 o'clock, midnight, whatever time, and make a little star chart of the prominent stars. And then next year, same night, same time, go out, every star will be in the exact same position.
Right. Now, what is the ballers' theory on this? Why does this make sense for the ballers?
Yeah, so ballers will say that the stars are so far away that it doesn't matter that we've moved billions of miles and that they've moved billions of miles since the previous year.
Well,
it doesn't matter.
Wouldn't the argument be, I know it's typical, I've heard you say that we are, as far as the baller theory goes, that we're a ball just flying through space, right? With the planets trailing behind us. Now, but I've heard the argument from ballers that we are a galaxy, so that we are in the Milky Way galaxy that contains all of these stars, and we're not just moving through the galaxy. Our galaxy is all moving in synchronicity, and it's slowly expanding and separating itself away from us.
Yeah, so I'm gonna illustrate that when we get out of the app. So let me get through the app. I got like 1 more minute in the app. The app will show you how north and south work, and east and west. The north is at the center of the flat Earth. South is, just think of the north as a magnetic pole in the center, and south is every direction away from that pole. And east and west are circles around that north pole. And this is true on a flat Earth or a ball Earth. Okay, so we'll come back to that. The thing is, today I'm going to open up a lot of doors for you. I'm going to say, hey, there's doors there. Don't trust anything I say. Go look at the information, and I'm going to show you where to find the information. And where you find the information is you hit the question mark, and up come every single question you guys are going to ask me today.
Yeah, this is on the app for those listening.
Like, what about seasons, or what about southern flights, or who's behind the lie, or where's the edge? People are going to ask that. Or why the lie? And why the lie is the biggest question. If you click any one of those, like why the lie, up come a playlist of videos that YouTube won't serve you. YouTube will send you a bunch of garbage to brainwash you and make you stop looking into flat Earth. So
Sure,
all
which
of the stuff,
admittedly, that is definitely where I've got most of my questions.
it's okay. And your questions are what I call Flat Earth 101. If you Google,
Exactly.
is the Earth flat? You're going to get an article or video that says top 10 reasons we know the Earth is a ball. And all of them are completely destroyed in this app. Okay, it'll show you. If you go to the next page, we have debunking the debunkers. So if you ever find a good video debunking the flat Earth, go here. The video's in here. We've taken it apart for you, and we show you how it's a deceptive video. We're not telling you, hey, it's a lie, hey, it's CGI, hey, it's fake. We're showing you how it's CGI, how it's fake. We're showing you how they do it, and then it's like showing you how a magician does its trick, right? And once you see through it, you can see through it. It has it in different languages if you have any people that don't speak English. What I tell people is, don't believe me. Take the Flat Earth App Challenge. You guys know what a Bitcoin is, right? Bitcoin?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I have a Bitcoin for anybody that takes the Flat Earth App Challenge. And here's how it works. Every day there's a featured video. And what I say is watch the featured video every day for 2 weeks, okay? And then if you can come up with one proof that the Earth is a spinning ball, send it to me. But first, check the frequently asked questions to make sure it isn't answered in there, because it probably is. And then send it to me. And if you have one proof of the Earth being a ball, I'll refund the $2.99 for your app, and I'll give you a full Bitcoin. Okay?
Right.
And Bitcoin is
and that's an amazing.
Yeah.
What is it up to now? 40,000.
It's probably 40. It'll probably be 50 before the end of the month.
Yeah, most likely the way that the government's going right now, but we won't get into that this episode.
So the app has a ton of other stuff on it, but you can find that out for yourself. And it's a lot of fun. And it'll basically, if you want to study flat Earth, you can spend a month every day, all day, researching on the internet and get nowhere. You take this app for just a couple of days going through it, and you'll be like, fuck.
Oh yeah, no, I assure you, this has opened up the door just for my interest alone. And I'm a former, well, I guess once an addict, always an addict. I've had my issues in the past, but so when I get into something, I throw myself at it for months at a time. So so if you feel like these questions are, like you said, baller 101 questions, don't worry. If we talk again in 6 months, I promise I'll have some better ones for you. But this is just opening up the door to our listeners.
There's only baller 101 questions. There's no good questions.
Well said.
So let's talk about what the heliocentric model is. So now that you know what the flat Earth is, it's not a disk floating in space. When people say flat Earth, they think of this. You Google flat Earth and you're going to find this meme. It's everywhere. This is from the Flat Earth Society. A disk floating in space with a bunch of heliocentric planets flying around. That's not it. And the flat Earth is not. It's not a bunch of you Google images of flat Earth and you're going to get this turn up floating in space and these dome things floating in space. This is mind control. Nobody believes this.
Real quick, just so those listening on the audio and not watching the YouTube, which again, go check out the YouTube, guys. This is going to be worth your time. If you've ever heard of the story, there's an old movie. Do you remember that movie where? No, not Biodome. Boy, shut up. I don't know why I try and bring you into this podcast. Sorry, this is not a PC podcast, by the way, so we get a little vulgar at times with each other.
That's fine.
So for those of you just listening, if you've ever heard of the turtle with the world on its back flying through space, that's what what he's talking about is the wrong assumption.
Disinformation.
The disinformation on what the flat Earth actually is in this scenario.
Although at this point, I can't rule it out.
No?
No, I can pretty much rule it out. But
I was going to say, that sounds antithetical.
I'm kidding. The world is a strange place, my friend. But one thing we know for sure, it's not a spinning ball flying through the universe. So in the heliocentric model, if you Google spiral solar system, you'll see what the image I'm showing you. The Earth is spinning. Do you know how fast it's spinning? The rotation of the Earth?
Oh, I had this yesterday, but
pretty fast.
1,000 miles an hour at the equator.
Okay.
So when you're watching
1,000 miles an hour at the equator.
When you're watching the sunset, you believe you're on the top of a ball and you're spinning over backwards faster than the speed of sound, which is making the sun look like it's setting. Okay. While you're doing that, you're orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles an hour, while you're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles an hour, while the whole galaxy, as you were talking about, is moving sideways at 1.2 million miles an hour or something like that. Something crazy.
Right, but for the baller's explanation of that, we're not saying that we're within a firmament. It's all spread out so distant that, like you said, you look at an airplane 30 miles away and an airplane 10 miles away. It looks like the one 10 miles away is flying a hell of a lot faster than the one that's 30 miles away, and you could see it for almost as long.
So you're to believe that a year, we're going just pick one of the directions. So following the sun, 500,000 miles an hour. Over the course of a year, how many miles is that? So that's 500,000 miles times 24 times 365, whatever that number is. Okay. That's a lot of miles. And then you believe that all of the stars never have any change in parallax, right? That which is absolutely insane.
Well, we do see oscillation. As far as I know, you don't believe in NASA, but this is the ballers' beliefs, right? We believe in what the quote unquote scientists are telling us. We do see oscillations in the micro movements of the star because they are so far away. We see them revolving around each other in their own orbits, in their own atmosphere. It does kind of track if you follow their theories, and again, they're all just theories, we don't know any of this for certain. Can you hear us all right? Yeah.
Good.
Okay, I just saw you messing with the headphones there.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry.
So they do explain it in, hypothetically accurate ways. Now, none of it is theory, in my opinion, of course, because none of it is actually proven. But just as much as so far what I'm hearing from you, it's not exactly proven because we can only know so much, right? But it is logical to think these things if you see it from a perspective.
Nothing about the heliocentric model works. So we're told that the sun is this giant ball and its gravity is holding on to the earth, right? So we have the sun and the earth is 93 million miles away. Right. So that's the thing I'm showing you isn't to scale. It's so far away, you couldn't have it in the same image. So the earth is falling around the sun with its gravity, right? This is what we're told. Okay. But NASA can take a supercomputer. There's a thing called the 3-body problem, right? And in our system, we have a moon, which is closer to the earth, and it's falling around the earth because the earth's gravity is holding on to it, right? Okay, so why doesn't the sun tug on the moon when it goes in between the earth and the sun? Why doesn't the sun rip the moon away or at least tug it just a little bit?
Well, because it's again, just speaking from the baller's perspective, because it would be in a particular Goldilocks zone where it's small enough and far enough away from the larger object, but it's not quite far enough or it's not quite close enough to Earth to crash into it, and it's just far enough away. It's just a Goldilocks zone of gravity, which is argued.
So that's insane. What you're saying is insane.
Well, insane is a harsh term. It's just hypothetical.
That's a belief. So they can take a supercomputer and they can put a ball sun in it. They go, all right, this ball's got this much mass and this much gravity, and we got another ball to the Earth and it's got this much gravity, and set it into an orbit. And the computer can predict where it's going to be next week, next year, in 1,000 years, and it works perfectly. Then they introduce a third body, a moon going around the Earth or another planet going around the sun, and the entire model falls apart instantly and never repeats. Okay.
Because you're adding a second gravitational force, though.
Right. So in our solar system, we have 80 different bodies we had an alignment the other day with all of the planets were in the sky at the same time, right near each other. The two of them were lined up, Saturn and Jupiter. How come none of them tugged on each other? Okay.
Well, it's the same idea. Like you take a whirlpool and you throw a bunch of stuff into it, you're going to have things rotating around the center of the whirlpool at different rates, and they're not necessarily crashing into each other until they go through through that whirlpool.
That has nothing to do with gravity. They all have a certain amount of
But
gravity.
it does in this heliocentric model because you're saying that the ball is traveling through Earth and it's trailing, which means the gravitational pull is pulling it in a cone center exactly like a whirlpool would. So if there's this center that's sucking the rest of it in, it does adhere to that model.
I don't agree with that at all.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, that's the bending space theory, which is I don't even know if people still believe that. It makes no sense.
It's certainly argued in certain physics classrooms. I never took physics. I'm just saying my layman's understanding of it. You are again, you've done much more research than me. I'm just playing devil's advocate in this conversation.
Yeah, no, I get it. So think about the heliocentric model. We're flying all these different directions. Halley's Comet goes away, and 76 years later, it comes back and it finds us, even though we're trillions of miles of where we were before.
Well, that's the argument for the way that the Earth goes around the sun. If it's in this ball, it's not a perfect circle around. It's oblong, and it does shift. It's oblong rotation around the sun. So there's going to be points where it goes away for a long time, then it comes back, and we could see it. Then goes away for a long time.
How does it find us? We're billions and billions of miles from where we were when it left.
Same way that these planets are finding us because it's within our gravitational field.
So these planets are within Earth's gravitational field?
No, the sun's. But
the sun's gravity is holding on to everything, and the Earth's gravity that's holding onto a moon doesn't affect any other planet, and all of the other planets are holding onto their moons don't affect other planets. They only affect their own personal moons?
I'm sorry, one more time?
So you're saying that we're all within the sun's gravity, and the sun's gravity is keeping everything organized?
Yes.
Okay. The Earth is holding onto a moon, so the Earth is keeping its moon in its organized pattern.
And Halley's Comet as well in this argument.
And the Earth is holding onto Halley's Comet too.
Yes.
And Jupiter is holding onto all of its moons, but ignores our moon and everyone else's moons and the other planets. It's just holding on to its own.
Yes, because of its distance from the planets. Yes. And because of the rate of its movement around the sun.
So the sun holds on to Jupiter, but ignores its moons because Jupiter's gravity negates the sun's gravity.
Yes, because of the size of the moons. They're not large enough to attract each other. Like you get a small magnet over here.
You have to be a certain size. So you have to be a certain size for the sun to pay attention to you.
Well, just like magnets, you take a small magnet and a large magnet and you put them equal distance apart as a large magnet on the other side of the large magnet at the same distance. Those two large magnets are going to attract each other much more easily than the small magnet is at the same distance.
And if you put a magnet in between, only one of those magnets would affect it, not the other one, right?
Sure, depending on the size. I mean, it's all about size variability here.
Okay. Fascinating belief you have there.
Not a belief, just a hypothesis. Again, I'm not a scientist. I don't believe in any of this. This is just hypothesis.
That is definitely a hypothesis. Thank God it's not a belief.
All right.
Go ahead. Next question. You wrote some questions down. I forget where we were.
Well, I mean, we could get much more basic with the arguments. I don't know.
So with all of these motions, we have lakes that are perfect glass, that aren't sloshing around, even though Neil deGrasse Tyson says just from the rotation motion of the Earth that the water at the equator bulges 14 miles high. Okay, so the high priest of scientism says that the equator, the water is bulging 14 miles high, but we have lakes that are perfectly calm. Any answer to that?
Well, the tide shifts, right? I mean, the tides that are then why do we have waves and tides at all if it's supposed to lay perfectly flat?
Well, I'm saying, we only have tides in salt water, not even in large bodies of water. So we're told that the tides are from the moon.
That's not true because you have the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. There's fresh.
They're both salt water. They're both salt water.
Where is that divide
Wow.
in the Navy? They'll take you to it. The divide of fresh and salt water. I'm not great with geography. But in the my uncle told
Wow.
me about it. They took him to the point in the water where the salt and fresh water divide in the
Wow.
ocean. So
I've never heard
there
of
are
that.
points and pockets of fresh water in large salt.
There's points where freshwater rivers are unloading. They're called estuaries into saltwater, but that doesn't make them freshwater. That's just where
Wow.
freshwater is mixing in. So again, what I'm saying is they're saying that because of the spin of the earth, the water bulges 14 miles high, nothing to do with tides. It has to do with centrifugal force. And we have
Wow.
lakes that we can be perfectly calm and look like a mirror. So to me, that doesn't make sense.
Wow.
Yeah, I totally skipped over that. I was
Mhm.
focused so much on
Wow.
all these other things like
Well, what were you focused on? Let's give Frank an opportunity to screw this podcast up again.
yeah, like since we're talking about the sun, I was going to ask you if you could
Wow.
please explain how the sunset proves the earth is flat, because I'm like, I still don't get where you're like what you're
In the
saying.
sunset?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, so when we look at the sunset,
Wow.
it's just going away. And I've inserted these clouds, and this last cloud, they're all the same height, but this one merges with the
Wow.
horizon. So the sun just goes beyond a physical,
Wow.
an opaque barrier. Do you guys have a computer voice that's saying something there? I keep hearing something in my ears every couple seconds.
No, not. It may be you. Let me make sure. Let me gain my data
Wow.
real quick. It may be picking you up, double transmitting yourself.
No, it's not
Oh,
an echo. I'm
on
hearing
our
like a
end.
woman's voice saying something like file.
Oh no, not at all.
Wow.
Strange.
No,
All right,
I've
whatever.
got
I'll
everything
deal with it
closed.
as long as hopefully it's not on the recording.
Not on our end. We're not hearing it at all.
All right, good.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So as the sun moves away,
Wow.
it's just going beyond a physical barrier. So when you look at in the distance, city skylines or tree
Wow.
lines or mountains look like they're at eye level, even though you know they're way over your head. So if something's above your eye
Wow.
level and then the sun just goes beyond it, it sets due to perspective. Okay.
Wow.
And once you see it, so on the app, how the sunset, hit the question mark, how the sun sets, and there's all videos where we show you how the sun sets. But something very interesting is on a super clear day, has to be no humidity, not
Wow.
over water. So like on the East Coast looking west, watching the sunset, I can put my drone up on a super cold day and the sun's way up in the sky. And over 5 minutes, it goes down, 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 down. And then it just stops. It stops going down, right?
Wow.
If the earth was spinning, it should always move and keep on moving, but it stops and it just sits here. And that what I'm showing you guys is sped up 2,500%. And the
Wow.
sun never goes below this horizon. It just disappears. It'll show it again. The sun literally goes down, 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 and then it
Wow.
just sits there and it
Okay.
fades away into the thickness. Okay.
Well, that's a beautiful
Meanwhile, my
image
friends
there.
were at the beach and they saw the sunset from the bottom up 10 minutes earlier.
Right. Well, the
Wow.
argument there would be the superior mirror image, wouldn't it? I mean, if you were to take a flashlight, for instance,
Wow.
a flashlight, I mean, light, it cones out. It's not just a directional light in any sense. And especially with our atmosphere, it picks up the spreading out
Wow.
light. So when a light source goes behind an image, just like imagine there's a wall and somebody's shining a high luminosity flashlight at the wall, you may actually be able to see some of the
Wow.
light coming over just because the light does expand outwards through the atmosphere. So when the sun sinks below the horizon, it's
not
actually
below the
producing a
horizon.
mirror.
It never goes below the horizon.
In for the baller's perspective. If it is in fact going below the
Wow.
horizon, then we're talking about the superior mirror image, which is just a refraction of the light off of the surface of the earth, just like you would see in any mirage in off the water or off a hot
Wow.
asphalt. And we're talking about millions and billions of lumens coming off the sun, bouncing off the surface of the earth. So we would see it bounce up further and mirror image itself. So it could very well look as if it
Wow.
was setting in reverse almost to an effect.
Yeah, it's an illusion because of light from the sun bends because of the curvature in the atmosphere, and then and then that's how we end up seeing the sun set 2 minutes after it's already set.
What's the argument against that?
Well, I don't understand your argument at all. I watch the sun go down, 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 down. I watch it all day long. It's going over, it's coming down, and then it stops and it sits there and it fades away. Never once does it go down and reflect up.
Allow me to demonstrate real quick.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah,
Hold on. I'm right here.
Well,
So I've got a flashlight here. It's not
Okay.
the highest luminosity, but so we're here. We're going down below the couch. At this point, it is behind the couch, but you
Yeah.
still see the very edge of it, which seems to be rounded. And now, because it's not a very high luminosity flashlight, you're not getting as much refraction. But considering that the sun is the brightest thing in our world, in our life, it's not hard to imagine that that would be the explanation.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to imagine that. Let's move on. What else you got? I mean, we can stay on it if you want to. I just don't understand that. I mean, I'm saying I saw the sun. Its bottom edge never goes below the horizon. This is actually an apparent horizon. It's not the real horizon. And you can clearly see it just fade out without dropping down and then showing me the top edge and
What do you
blurring
mean
out.
it's the apparent horizon?
So this the horizon, or is it an apparent horizon?
Oh, I'm sorry, because that there is no horizon in the flat Earth structure. Okay.
Well, the
I'm just
horizon
clarifying
is not
the
a physical
words.
place. It's an apparent place, depending on your position and the density of the atmosphere and all the things that you're seeing. It's where the sky meets the opaqueness, and that could be 10,000 feet above your head. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm like that. That's what I was going to say that because
I understand.
in that video you were mentioning the opaqueness of the sky, the clouds. I don't know, and I'm like okay, like
Well, that adds atmosphere, right?
yeah, like I'm like it's an illusion. Both ballers and flat earthers can agree that it's an illusion.
Yeah, it's similar to like if you're out on a foggy day and you turn your bright beams on, it looks like that light is just massive, just covering almost a wall in front of you. But it's not. It's really only, it's still the same size light, still the same headlights that you've always used. It just appears to be lighting up more because of the atmosphere that's in front of you.
Okay.
It expands the visual of the light itself, which is the argument as to why we still see the sun a couple minutes after it has quote unquote gone below the horizon.
All right. Let's look at another thing. You want to address?
I mean, it would be the same argument as far as seeing the skyline from Lake Michigan, right? Is there and again, it's just the argument that I've heard. It would be the same idea of the superior image, the superior image. Yeah. So it would just be a refraction of it would just be the light showing an illusion of sorts. Yeah.
If that's what you want to believe, we can move on.
Again, we're not talking about beliefs, just hypotheses here.
Okay. So
right.
Here's a rocket that was sent up by amateurs, which doesn't go up like a NASA rocket. It actually goes straight up instead of curving out and disappearing. And it went up 73 miles when all of a sudden it sounded like it hit something, kind of like the sound of when you drop a stone into a lake. It went kerplunk into a thicker medium. All right. So we don't know what that is. But as the rocket started weirdly floating, and when it turned on its side, the camera could look across because the atmosphere is very thin up there, and it could see the horizon, and up comes the moon. We could see the moon. And this is the moon that I'm pointing to. Right. And it's across the horizon. So the question is, how could it possibly see the moon? Because this was done in Arizona, and the moon at that time was over Australia. So Australia, that would be looking through thousands of miles of thickness of the earth to see the moon. But we could see it when this rocket was up 73 miles. So we saw the moon, and the only way that could be is if the earth is a flat plane and Australia is out to the side and not underneath the ball.
Right, but
That's compelling.
The moon is always right there. Like,
What do you mean?
Here's the Earth. Here's Australia, and here's the moon down here. Here's Arizona.
Wow.
This rocket is literally a millimeter above my hand. 73 miles is less than a millimeter, and it could see the moon straight off to the
Wow.
side.
What launch was this?
This is
Who
called the
was this
Go Fast
privateer?
rocket launch. It was an amateur rocket launch. It was called the Go
Wow.
Fast rocket.
Go Fast rocket.
Yeah.
That's compelling. I'd love to look. I can't believe I missed that in my.
Right. And here's another one talking about the sun setting. This is in a high, dry atmosphere, no water moisture, super clear day. And the
Wow.
sun's literally stopped going down. Again, this is super sped up. And it's just not going down. It's just going away. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it gets so small it goes behind the atmospheric blocking, which it's just about
Wow.
to do, that I was talking about. It's just going away.
Well,
This
it
is
definitely
sped up.
seems like it's getting smaller, but
It's getting smaller as you would expect something to do. That's a big baller argument. If the
Wow.
Earth is flat and the sun is just circling around, it would get smaller and smaller. But there's reasons that we don't see it get smaller. And that's because we don't actually see it go that far. But in this case, it stopped going down. It just sat there and then it just went away
Wow.
and got smaller and smaller, just like you'd expect. But there's not many places in the world where you can see this.
now
If the Earth was spinning, that sun would have been below this horizon, this physical horizon, a long time ago. That's a physical horizon.
Wow.
well, it's hard to get. Unfortunately, because of the superior mirror
Wow.
image, I'm still maybe I'm just a little too stuck on that point. I'll have to do a little more research on that, but I don't think we're gonna get any further on the conversation with the horizon, unfortunately.
Okay. Any
Let's-
other ball proofs that you would like to discuss?
and
Wow.
the whole moon thing, it's like the moon is it's always there where it's at, and the Earth is actually at
Wow.
an axis. So then for us down here to say, like, the Earth is tilted, so for us down here to say
Wow.
the moon was over Australia, when you go out in space, the moon hasn't moved. Like, it didn't go down or up. It stayed right there. It's just,
No,
you
the
know,
moon
Their rocket
orbits
wasn't
the
in
Earth.
space,
The moon
though.
orbits the
Wow.
Earth. And just like you can have the sun directly over you, where you can say, I've got a stick that's straight up and down and there's no shadow, that means the sun's right over you. At the time, the moon was right over Australia.
Wow.
right, but the moon doesn't move that way. The moon was
Yes, the
there.
moon does move. The moon goes.
It moves,
the
right?
heliocentric
But-
model, the moon goes around the
I mean-
ball Earth.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
in
yeah,
your
yeah.
model, the
but
moon
it
is
doesn't.
moving.
Yeah, but it
Wow.
doesn't. What I'm saying is that it
So
does.
here's the moon. Here's the moon, and here's the Earth, and Australia is over here. So the moon is over Australia. You're over here with your rocket.
Wow.
How the hell are you going to see the moon?
No, yeah,
It's a
because-
good point.
Yeah, because the Earth is tilted, right? So then when it broke the atmosphere, when it was at the edge of space, of course it's gonna see the
Wow.
moon because the moon is fucking huge, And I'm saying from our perspective,
Wow.
it looked like the moon was over Australia, but the moon was actually
Over Australia.
somewhere in the middle,
Wow.
No, it was over Australia.
right? How we see it from here, from Earth.
No, from here, it's
Wow.
off to the side. From Australia, it's directly over their heads at the time.
It was daytime here while it was
Wow.
nighttime over there. That's why the moon
Well,
was
the
over
moon's
there.
in the day sky. That doesn't mean it's you can have the moon in the day
I'm saying
sky
for his
also.
argument, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm just saying for him, the moon can be anywhere in the sky because it is in the daytime for 14 days and it's in the night sky for 14 days.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on from the
Wow.
sun and the moon.
Okay.
Because again, there's going to be a lot of points in this conversation where there just simply isn't enough evidence on one
Wow.
side or the other to convince one side or the other.
How about
we're trying to find it all?
the fact
sorry?
that we can see too far? So the
how so?
Earth is 24,000 miles around. There's a curvature formula for that. The
Oh.
given formula is very easy. It's 8 inches per mile squared. So the first mile is 1 mile, 8 inches. The second mile, the Earth is dropping off faster and faster as you're going off
Wow.
your tangent line. So it's 2 times 2, which is 4, times 8, which is 32 inches. At 3 miles, it goes to 6 feet. Now, this isn't flat Earth math. This is actual math. So a 6 foot tall person standing at the edge of calm water should only be able to see the surface of the water for 3 miles, and then it should drop behind a physical horizon. It should be below the curve. Okay. And if they stood up higher, they might be able to see a little bit farther, but 3 miles. If you put a camera at 1 foot off the ground, the horizon should be 1.2 miles away.
Sure. Well, the argument. I'm so sorry. I keep cutting you off. Please.
Yeah.
Continue.
No. What's the argument?
Well, wouldn't the argument there be that there is a higher density of precipitation the higher you go, therefore there'd be more light refraction, allowing you to see like a magnifying glass just a little bit further.
So we have a camera a foot off the ground. This rig is 9.4 miles away. The amount of curvature should be 59 feet, according to Globe Math. So we shouldn't be able to see the water surface at this because there should be 59 feet of curvature right here. But you can clearly see, and in the video you can see it way better, that there's miles and miles and miles of water surface beyond it. Okay? There should be 59 feet of a bulge not showing us any water here, but we can see it from miles and miles beyond. There is no curvature. Now, the only argument you have is refraction.
Yeah, that's unfortunately
lifting up the water behind it and stopping it right at the perfect level, not lifting it up higher. And the refraction isn't affecting the oil rigs. It's just affecting the water that's in front of it and beyond it.
But it is that because we may not actually be seeing the base of that oil rig. It may just be the refraction of the base of that.
So stop. We can see water surface beyond it.
Right.
I know it might be hard to see in this picture, but if you go to the video on the app, boats over the horizon, we can see too far. You can see, because we zoom in, and you can see the surface of the water for miles and miles and miles beyond this. We can see the surface of the water. So you can't say that the rig is hidden behind water, but we can see the water beyond the rig. Makes absolutely no sense.
I'm not saying that any of it is hidden beyond. I mean, I'm saying that if anything, it would all be hidden behind the water, and it's all refraction from the rig forwards.
So the 59 feet of curvature in the front is lifting the water up to the height of the rig, and then there's more refraction beyond the rig that's lifting the water right up to that same height. It never lifts it higher or lower. It always lifts it to the perfect level. So you're having magical refraction that's not lifting the rig, but it's just lifting everything perfectly.
Well, it would all be at the same rate. If it's all one visual illusion, then the illusion would continue throughout your visual scope, because you're looking at it through a telescope, presumably. And the telescope is acting as if you are, further ahead. So with a bare naked eye, you wouldn't see it at all. With the telescope, you'd be able to see further.
Okay. If that's your hypothesis.
Yes. Again, playing devil's advocate here, David. I love all this information you're giving us. I'm not gonna give up. At the end of this conversation, it's not gonna be the end of me looking into.
All right, so let's look at this one. So this is the equator right here, right? So on a globe Earth, this is the largest circumference on a globe Earth. Earth. With me?
Yes.
It's 24,901 miles around right here. So if you were sitting in an airplane on a runway right here on the equator, how fast are you moving relative to a spot in space that's not moving? You're moving 1,000 miles an hour.
1,000 miles an hour, as you said earlier, right?
Okay. So, and you're going around once every 24 hours. So you're rotating at 15 degrees per hour, right? You with me?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're going to go up to a runway in northern Alaska, which is way up here. You can't see it. Right. That runway is rotating at 15 degrees per hour also, because it only goes around once per day, right? Agreed?
Sure.
But it's making a much smaller circle. It's making a smaller circle at the top, right? So it's not really going. It's not going 24,000 miles around. It's going many less miles per round.
Right. It's just like that toy, the airplane on a string that you spin around. You're not traveling as fast as that airplane is at the end of the string.
Correct. Very good. So now let's say we have a runway that's 1 mile from the North Pole. 1 mile.
Okay.
So it's still moving at 15 degrees per hour in a circle, right? 15 degrees per hour. It goes around once per day, but it's only traveling. And if you remember the pi times the distance, 3.14 miles every 24 hours, it's only moving 3.14 miles in a circle. Okay. That circle is 3.14 miles, right? So,
Right.
but it's still going 15 degrees per hour, but it's only moving at a third of a mile per hour or a quarter of a mile. It's barely moving at all because it's moving very slowly versus the plane here that's moving 1,000 miles an hour.
To
Right?
rotate around the axis, right?
So that airplane that's right next to the North Pole, it takes off. It speeds up to 500 miles an hour with its engines. It flies to Ecuador, and it's trying to land on an equator that's oriented north-south. That equator is moving sideways at 1,000 miles an hour. How does it land on that runway? Where does it get that 1,000 miles an hour of sideways speed?
Not sure.
The runway is moving 1,000 miles an hour sideways. That airplane didn't have that 1,000 miles an hour of initial speed. You could argue that the plane that took off from here was already moving at 1,000 miles an hour.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but I guess the baller's argument would be that we are within the ball's atmosphere. That atmosphere is also moving along with it. Just by you spin a ball, you could feel the wind revolving around the ball as well. So the natural atmosphere would be carrying it to some degree at the very least.
So the air at so if you looked at the air that rises up as individual columns of air. So the air.
We're not talking about wind or we're talking about the overall atmosphere.
The overall atmosphere. So the air at the equator is moving 1,000 miles an hour. Okay, with the Earth. So there's no wind at all.
Everything is, yeah.
And the air at 30,000 feet, it actually has to go a little faster than 1,000 miles an hour just to keep up with the surface of the Earth because it's making a bigger circle. Because it's elevated, so that circle is actually bigger than the equator. So it actually has to go faster just to keep up with the land below it, right? If this is the circle of the Earth, and the tip of my finger is moving 1,000 miles an hour, well, and that this circle is 24,000 miles. Well, if I'm up here in an airplane, this is 25,000 miles. So it has to go faster just to keep up. Right?
I'm not sure there's a large enough difference in the atmospheric movement as there is the Earth's movement, though.
All right. So what I'm saying is the air columns at the equator are spinning 1,000 miles an hour. The air columns up here are spinning at a third of a mile per hour. They're spinning 300 miles an hour here, 500 miles an hour here. But they all kind of just hold on to each other and spin around an imaginary vortex.
Well, no, because as you're traveling closer to the equator, the atmosphere is changing at the same rate as the equator speed is.
Yeah. So when you fly from the north, you're speeding up sideways up to 1,000 miles an hour. And
right, but we're also
when you pass the equator, even though you're free flying through air and wind can go left and right and up and down without ignoring the gravity is speeding the plane up sideways. So it's always going the right speed above the Earth to land on it.
That would be the argument.
Great hypothesis. Awesome. That's a great one. You should write a paper on that one.
Sure, I can write a bunch of bullshit papers, dude. I'm full of bullshit.
There you go. Now we're talking.
Don't get me wrong, but
I'm a bunch of bullshit.
But to be fair, my personal belief here, I think it's all bullshit. I think I can find the bullshit in both arguments, just because humans are contrary species. We're always looking for let's
jump to the
self-fulfilling prophecies of sorts.
So do you believe that there's a space station in space?
I believe yes. Why not?
Okay. And so when they show us pictures of the Earth, how come we never see land? Or when they're showing us something live, like if they're showing us this, where's the land?
Well, that's one image.
Where's the land?
Obviously seen images of land, though.
Where's the land on this one?
It's not there, but that's a single image out of millions that are available.
It's a video, but it's actually taken from a front lawn, and it was just turned upside down, and we did it with zero budget. NASA has $65 million a day to fool you. Okay, sure. That's just the sky. Let me ask you another question. Wait, why this is going? Is this a 40,000 pound steel container or a blimp?
Could be either. I
It could
mean,
be
now
either.
that now
So
that
this guy's
we-
going to jump and watch how fast he falls. And this is a 40,000 pound steel container or a blimp. It's spinning, it's turning
Wow.
sideways. Is that a blimp or 40,000 pounds of steel?
All right, but now we're getting into the illusion factor and
Wow.
where we're
I'm just asking
using
you
our
what you think it is.
what I think it is.
Yeah.
Well, based on the previous image you showed me, I think it's farce.
So wait, a farce.
it-
I'm asking you what it is. I'm not telling you what it is. I'm
Okay,
Okay,
saying-
it looked to me. Okay, I'm sorry. Right now, it looked like a large metal container in the sky.
and what is stopping it from falling?
Trial.
It didn't seem like it was falling or flying because it.
So
of
why
the-
wouldn't a 40,000 pound metal
Wow.
container fall?
I don't know the image that you're showing me. It's you're.
I'm asking
kinda-
you what it looks like. I'm not asking you, I mean, could
Well,
a
I mean, it
40,000
looks-
pound container of
It
steel
looks like it's
float in the sky like that?
It looks
Like
like
it's
a
a-
container
Wow.
that could either be, I mean, it's impossible to tell based on the image on the video.
I'm saying it's at the edge of space, right there.
I mean-
That's why it's
Edge of space, so the
Wow.
cloud's right there.
It looks like 100 different things without pulling back. What are you getting at with this video?
No, I'm showing you different ways NASA deceives you.
Trial.
So let's look at this. Is that guy hanging from a wire or is he floating
Oh.
in space?
Okay, so we're talking about
Wow.
yeah, no, that definitely looks like he's on a wire. 100%.
Okay.
100%. It looks like he's on a
And
wire.
then this woman, is she picking
Wow.
up a real object or a computer generated object?
Well,
Is
that
she
could very
picking up
well
a
be a
real object
computer-generated
or
object.
a
Oh, look at
virtual
that!
reality?
Okay, now just real quick, we're talking about
Wow.
NASA now, and I am the last one to say that NASA is honest with us. NASA is notorious for fucking bullshit. So I am not a NASA apologist by any stretch of the
Wow.
imagination.
That's good. That's good to hear because I'm looking for some proofs for a
Wow.
reason that you might hypothesize that we live on a globe. Okay.
Sure.
Wow.
Not. So what would be your best proof that we live on a globe?
I would
Wow.
say the only one that I could feel somewhat confident in, and again, I am not on either side of this fence because of the nature of the conversation. I am arguing for the baller side.
Trial.
I get it.
But if I was gonna call myself a baller in the end of this conversation, it would have to be because of the stars, but because of the northern, the Southern Cross and the North Star.
The North Star. So let's talk about the North Star. So what about the North Star makes you think that we live on a ball?
When we get to the position on Earth where we're staring at the North Star, we could see that the other stars are revolving around it.
Trial.
They are. Go ahead.
And then we get to the southern hemisphere and we see this similar thing with the Southern Cross. And if
Similar,
we
but
are
not the
seeing,
same.
Trial.
I'm sorry?
Similar, but not the same.
Similar but not the same, right? But because we just don't have a random occurrence of this one perfect star that just happens to be following us at the same rate
Wow.
as on the southern hemisphere. It's not quite the same, but we do still see a rotation of the stars around a point in the sky. And if we were a flat Earth,
Trial.
the argument would be that we would have to have two separate star systems in the sky at the same time. And if that's the case, why at the center of this flat Earth can't we see both? I mean, at the equator, we could see both northern and southern hemisphere
Wow.
stars for a very short amount of time.
Yeah. So this is how
But
it works.
that's the
So
largest argument I
imagine-
could.
Trial.
Imagine we're in a big room and it's got a light, 10-foot high ceiling, and it's got random lights in the ceiling, recessed lights,
Trial.
and we'll call those the stars. So now we're going to expand that room to 10 miles wide. And I'm going to send you 7 miles away from me,
Trial.
okay, in that room.
Okay.
One, you wouldn't be able to see me anymore because the ceiling would merge with the floor and you wouldn't be able to see me. It's just how the angular
Wow.
resolution and perspective works
Yes.
with our eyes. And two, when we both look up, we're going to be looking at completely different lights in the ceiling.
Trial.
And so according to your hypothesis, that room is a sphere when in fact it's flat. So the fact that you see different stars in the southern end of the room that we live in doesn't mean that we're on a ball. It just means that their stars are small and close, and you can't see them from great distances.
Yeah, but that's not explaining the rotation of the other stars around that point in the
sky. So that's difficult to do on a radio show on the app about the click.
Yes,
what about
definitely check
hold
out
on,
the
I'll
app,
explain. I'll explain. It's their corpuscular rays and anti-corpuscular rays, and the way it spins perfectly explains how it works. Now, the optics of the sky and with the dome and all the stuff again that's above our heads doesn't prove anything, because a lot of it we can't prove it, but we can show you how it would work on a flat Earth. So again, that doesn't mean that it's right. I'm showing you how it could work on a flat Earth. It could also work on a ball Earth. Therefore, it goes in the middle basket. Doesn't count for anything.
Exactly, and that's exactly why I am still 50. I know it. Again, David, I don't want to be argumentative here. It's the point isn't. I'm not trying to debunk anything you're saying. I am simply posing the questions that
I get
arise from again Baller 101 questions, just so the listeners don't feel like we're giving you a free pass on anything. You know what I mean?
So what about, what other proof? Okay, so you mentioned star rotation. I showed you it doesn't prove anything. What else you got?
It definitely does. Yeah, and as I said, that's really the most compelling one that I have, and the best it does is meet us halfway.
That's the best one you have?
I'm not lying to you. I've never called myself a baller.
I'm with you. I agree. There's not any better ones, but that's actually is the best one. But again, it doesn't prove anything.
All right. Well, Frank, do you want to take over while I go through my notes, see if I can find anything else?
Yeah, we were talking about the whole airplane thing, and
you and your airplane things.
No, and if you could, because you haven't yet touched on the flight from Sydney to Santiago, how that proves that the Earth is flat.
Right. The flight from Sydney.
That was an interesting.
So from Santiago to Sydney, this is the shortest route. Straight line, shortest route, right over Antarctica. But people say, well, you can't go over Antarctica. It's too cold. It's too dark, whatever. Okay. So just stay at I think they're at 50 degrees south or whatever. And you just go around here. And this is the shortest path, right? So right there, it's that would be the shortest path. But the majority of the flights, almost all of them, now there is a direct flight that is completely different, but the flights go from Santiago, they go all the way up to the west coast, over to the east coast, and then all the way back down. And if they want to go to the east coast of Australia, it's even worse. They go all the way up here, then they go all the way over to Europe or Dubai, and then they go all the way down. That's crazy. Why didn't they just go underneath? Right? This is a little short trip over here. And the reason is because that same flight path that we're looking at over here is basically a straight line. And if I wanted to go to the east side of Australia, look at this. We go all the way up, over to Europe, Dubai, and straight over. It's a straight line. Okay? Flight paths prove the Earth is flat. There's a book online. You could look it up. It's the name of the channel that it comes from is Flat Earth Banjo Japan. I can never get it right. Just look up flat emergency landings. 16 emergency landings prove flat Earth, and it shows you these emergency landings that land in places that are thousands and thousands of miles out of the way of where the plane should be landing. But if you look at it on a flat Earth map, it makes perfect sense. So let me see if I could show it from here. Like a flight from Indonesia over to the west coast is going. You got Hawaii out here, and it's going over here. But there was the flight was right here. So Hawaii is right here. Flight's right here. There was emergency landing, so they landed in Alaska. Right? That's crazy, right? Why did they go here? Why didn't they land in Hawaii, go back, or go back, or just continue to California? They went all the way up to Alaska. But if you look at that from here, okay, they're going from here, right? And they could just land in Alaska. It's just a straight line. It's a straight line right here.
I do have two arguments there. Not compelling. Just for the sake of those people that say that we let you get away with stuff. There are two factors. One is just human greed, economics. People don't want to be flying commercial lines to places that are low in population. And 90%, according to the baller theory, 90% of the population lives in the northern hemisphere. So there's going to be lesser population density in the southern hemisphere, less reason to travel to those more directly.
That argument doesn't hold weight in what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is they had an emergency landing. Somebody was giving birth or having a heart attack, and instead of landing where they said they were, they went all the way up here. Instead of just landing out here in Hawaii, because they were right here, they went all the way up here to land.
Now, I'm not denying that it doesn't. It seems nonsensical, but
it is.
Do we know what the wind direction was? Because oftentimes, if there's too strong of a headwind going to that location, it can actually burn up a hell of a lot more fuel than just following the trade winds towards another location.
So instead of just going a couple hundred more miles to Hawaii, they went several thousand miles out of the way to Alaska because of wind currents. That's your argument. That's called grasping at straws, or that's called playing the devil's advocate. I get it because I'm literally gonna jump through the screen and strangle you soon.
I'm sorry, man. I've got to do it. I'm a contrarian by nature.
I get it.
I promise you, and maybe someday we'll be lucky enough to get a professional baller on, and I promise you, I will argue every point you are making to them as well. I am just contrarian by nature of the podcast.
All right, go ahead. Next.
Frank, anything else you want to kick off?
Oh yeah, well, I was just gonna say that that flight path is because most planes can't make it over the Andes. But then you brought up the whole Alaska thing, and I'm like, no, because
16 emergency landings that prove flat Earth. You can get a free download copy online, or you can order the coffee table book, which is amazing. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, cool.
I'm gonna look into it. He's not very he's a good guy. He just doesn't quite think a lot. So
I think too much. That's my problem.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
you gotta let it out sometimes. Let people know what you're thinking.
In my opinion, he's the one that's kind of, I can see his percolating there. You're playing the devil's advocate and hiding whether you're thinking or not. I see one guy thinking on the couch over there.
No, yeah, I'm
fair, very fair.
No,
he puts me in my place too.
I'm thinking about all this, and I'm thinking, I'm like, fuck, I gotta go back to school because.
No.
Oh God.
School is indoctrination.
We're on the same page on this one, man.
Okay, do not go to school.
Jesus, talk about the devil's advocate.
Go to school and figure out memorization and regurgitation of nonsense, and then you get an A if you can do that.
Okay, so let's get into the more
trial.
Oh, good God. Conspiracy theory aspect of it. What is the reason, right? I mean, that's what everybody wants to know. What's the reason for the subterfuge?
Yeah, so they want you to believe that you live on a random speck flying through an infinite godless vacuum or distant god vacuum, and that you have no importance, and that you're a random accident, and that your life doesn't matter. When in fact, the truth is that you live at the center of creation in an amazing place, that you're special, that you have God-given free will, that nobody has dominion over you, that your thoughts create your reality. They don't want you to know any of this stuff. They want you to live in fear. They want you to give up your God-given rights to them, the controllers, through deception. They want you to live your life in fear and to be a slave. But when you understand where you are, who you are, what you are, you take your power back and you literally take your life back. So the reason the world is in such a screwed up place right now is because people are lost in space. They all believe they're living in a fantasy explosion where nothing matters. So they've been controlling our minds. They've been governing our minds. They've been controlling our minds. Government. Ment is mind. Govern is control. Government. They're controlling our minds with the tell, lie, vision. They've been using the television and it's just we're living in a world of just cartoons. Okay, it's the same thing right here. Same thing.
Same repetitive,
Yeah.
points that they're always making.
Trial.
I know this has got to resonate with our friend Frank here. He is very anti-government in almost every
Trial.
sense, right?
Almost.
Almost every. We should
Well,
be
then
governing
you're almost
ourselves.
perfect.
He's almost
Wow.
perfect,
Every
not quite
sense,
there.
then you'll be perfect.
So elaborate, Frank.
No, yeah, because I brought up that very same point to Tony in one of our earlier episodes. You know, government means the control of the
Wow.
mind, and then he hits me with, "Well, every conversation is a control of the mind. I'm controlling your mind right now," and I'm like,
100%.
Trial.
He flipped me off. He's flipping off the screen, but that was intended for me, for you listeners.
"Yeah, because I
Fuck
was
you,
thinking,
Frank.
no, because my thought was
But it
like,
is.
because my thought was like, okay, so then we'll just fucking let ourselves
Trial.
get mind controlled." Because another one of Tony's arguments
When
is
I was
that.
questioning what
is
you
that-
said that can protect you from being controlled by others.
Yeah, and then because one of Tony's arguments is that, well, they're gonna do it anyways, and I'm like, so fucking take our pants down and take it up the ass.
Individuals are going to do it anyways. Now, whenever you get a group of 2 or more people in a room, they're obviously going to attempt to overpower the individual that's not thinking in that same line of rationale.
Trial.
So how do you feel about government in general? Let's get into government. Just a little bit.
They're not here for our good. Governments are the conspiracy. They're the ones conspiring to control our minds when they have no right to. They're hiding the rest of the world from us. There's probably more continents out there, more land, more stuff that they don't want us to know about, along with who, that our true power. They're hiding free energy. They're hiding everything. There's unlimited water, unlimited food, unlimited energy, and it's all free. And they're hiding all of that. They're making people think that they can't survive without the government, and that is the opposite of the truth.
Yep.
Now, I'm highly interested in, and forgive me if I get the detail wrong, but you mentioned since there is no, is there a center of this Earth, this flat Earth? What's on the? I mean, there is no bottom of it, right? We are the basement floor, as you say.
Right.
So what is it that's holding us down? Is it in fact electromagnet?
So I don't know what's below the earth. Maybe it's that turtle you talked about earlier. Okay. So I don't know what's below the earth. Nobody does, because the deepest hole ever dug is just short of 8 miles, and they hit an impenetrable barrier, whether the earth is round or flat. So nobody knows what's below that. Okay. And when they show you that cross section of the earth, that is pseudoscience. That's a meme that somebody drew. They made up stuff, and there's no way to prove it. And they can actually prove that they're probably wrong, because when they dug that 8 miles, they were guessing what they were going to hit with all of their technology, and they were wrong every step of the way.
What did they think they were going to hit?
What's that?
What did they think they were going to hit? I haven't looked into
So when they're going, they're like, all right, there's no more water past this point, and then they found more water, and they're like, all right, there's no more boulders or whatever, and then boom, they hit more rocks. So they're
just mistake after mistake.
Their technology was wrong. So literally, if you make a model where the Earth is an apple, they got halfway through the skin, and they were wronged every step of the way through the skin, but somehow they know what's at the core. Nonsense.
And the other thing, shit, I forgot. I had something for
Oh,
this.
come on.
But what happens when you forget your notes at home?
Yeah, you're useless. All right. So how did your family, have you convinced your family? Do you still have people that are butting heads with you in your personal life? What is your personal life like with all of this?
Yeah. So when you become a flat earther, there's people that will just, you'll break ties with. My extended family, my brothers and sisters, we never discuss it, because they're not ready to wake up. They're sleeping to all the deceptions in the world, and that's fine. We don't discuss it. I have some friends that I've lost touch with, and I have a whole new family of friends. There's new, people that are awake and aware. We have these conferences with hundreds and hundreds of people, and they're amazing. There's just everybody there. We all are thinking on the same wavelength, and the conversations and the friendships are better than anything I've ever had. But over time, because, I've been doing this for 6 years now, I'm having friends contact me that I
Wow.
went to high school with and elementary school. They're calling me up. They're like, Dave, I saw you on the so-and-so show. I'm looking into this. Oh my God. And boom, they're coming on board. So the tide has turned. There are people waking up every other day or every
Wow.
day.
Every day.
So how is it? My life is great. I love it. And when anyone brings up flat Earth, anyone that has an intelligent conversation with me ends up being a flat earther. So that's it, unless they have brain damage.
Trial.
Now, whatever you have going on in your life, you're happy. Whatever direction
Amazing.
you've taken compared to other people, you are most likely more happy than a heck of a lot of the people that you talk to.
So part of the thing is, I
Wow.
believe that we're having this soul's journey here, we have a soul, and our soul has a plan to expand its consciousness. Maybe that soul is what built the earth. I don't know. And
Wow.
it's expand its consciousness through an experience, but somebody hijacked our minds, so what we're not connecting with our souls. So the farther apart you are from your soul, the worse your life is going to be, the more tough it's going to
Wow.
be, the more unhealthy you're going to be. But when you align with your soul, things just start to flow, and it's amazing, right?
Trial.
So the documentary with Keanu Reeves, The Matrix, right?
Documentary.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the first Matrix, Keanu's in his apartment. He's like, his bed's unmade. He's depressed.
Wow.
Something's wrong with the world. He can't figure it out. And that's him separated from his soul, from his true self. And then at the end of the movie, look at Keanu. That's a great analogy of what it means to find out who you are, right?
Wow.
And flat earth, when you understand where you are, who you are, what you are, you end up connecting with that. You get out of that depression. That depression is the separation of you from your soul. And it brings you in harmony with your soul. And if you allow it to flow like a river, if you try to hold a river back, you're going to drown. Okay. But if you go with the river and you go with the flow, it all works out.
That's right. That's
There you
right.
go.
Now, I can definitely relate to this on a fundamental level. I myself, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, I'm a former addict, and I've struggled a lot to realize that my addictions came
Wow.
from the world around me crushing me, just crushing me, because I was putting everything outside of
Wow.
me on a pedestal when I should have been putting myself on a pedestal and elevating myself. And the way that I've come to start to question the things that I've always been told to believe in or raised to believe in was I started running a lot, which had me starting to breathe better, which had me learn to stretch and find yoga. And the form of yoga I do, vinyasa, is a very introspective style of yoga. And it is as a lot of people like to think it's a religion thing. It's not. It's very much based on very logical science, that if you only take a moment to realize how your own introspection and breathing techniques can physically help you. It's all little baby steps that got me to the point where I realized that happiness comes from what I believe, what I can feel, what I can understand based on the facts that are presented to me and my logical discretion of those facts. So when people like you or ballers or yogis or priests, doesn't matter where the information is coming from, if you could find the similarities, the threads of truth within them that are just universal, that bind it all together, that's when you find true happiness. And as long as you're searching for truth and not just allowing people to make your mind up for you, you are going to find yourself in a much happier place. And this podcast has been one of them, and my yoga has been one of them. This conversation, I promise. Christ, I've got cats in the ceiling, I think. Sorry. Don't know if you heard that. We had quite a ruckus here. So I just wanted to let you know where I'm coming from with all this as well, that I'm not quite as close-minded as maybe my questions may have seemed during this interview. But I can't thank you enough for just being you, my friend.
All right, man. Thanks. And just keep looking into it and don't believe. Belief is the enemy of knowing. And you could lead a man to flat water, but you can't make him think critically about the shape of the earth.
Beautiful. Frank, is there any last minute questions you want to get in before we give our people our information one more time and sign off here?
Well, shit. All I had was, but answered my own question. Because I wanted to ask, I wanted to ask, but I answered my own question. how you would explain the Northern Lights in a flat Earth, and I remember you were explaining in your app
It's in the app.
in one podcast that North is magnetic center.
Yep.
Yeah, and
So there's magnetic fields going through the sky, and there's different gases up there, and they they fluoresce in different colors. The sky is blue, maybe because the sun is fluorescing the nitrogen, and nitrogen fluoresces blue. Not sure, but it sure appears that might be happening.
That's yeah. There's thousands of questions. There's millions of explanations. We just have to think critically about them and take the time to listen to each other, and not be scared of these conversations. If we've reached you at all with this conversation, if Mr. David Weiss here has touched a nerve for you, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you should be upset. Maybe you should think about why you're upset. Why can you not think critically about these questions yourself and just judge people for their own logical and well thought out views and truths that they have to share? Listen, people, just listen. Mr. Weiss, could you let the people know exactly where they could find you one more time?
You can get my app on the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app by Blue Water Bay. It's on the Apple iOS store, Apple App Store. You have to have an iPhone 6 or better. And it's on the Google Play Store for Android 8.0 or higher. And it's $2.99. I refund your money and give you a full Bitcoin if you can come up with one proof of the globe. But again, before you send it to me, hit that question mark and see if your question is answered in there, because it probably is.
And I just want, just so nobody thinks I'm a hypocrite here, as we end this, I just purchased it myself. So
you're the man.
Everybody, don't think that that anybody here is full of shit. We are questioning everything because what the hell else are you going to do with your time? Don't be a shill, people. Just figure it out for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another fantastic, probably my favorite episode I've ever done of the Completely Inappropriate Podcast. I have been Tony, along with Mr. Frank. Frank, what do we tell the lovely listeners? Yes. Find your happy people. Try to be better today than you were yesterday. Much love. Take care.